The freight cook was a kind-hearted man named Joe. Standing about 6 feet tall, he had a hearty laugh that echoed through the train's narrow corridors. Each day, Joe woke up early to prepare meals for the crew and passengers on the long-haul freight train. His small kitchen was filled with the delicious smells of sizzling bacon, fresh bread, and brewing coffee. With his well-worn apron tied snug around his waist, he moved quickly, chopping vegetables and stirring pots as the train chugged down the tracks. Joe loved his job. There was something magical about being on the move, watching the landscapes change from fields to hills as they traveled across the country. Even when it got busy or stressful, he found joy in serving hot meals that warmed everyone's spirits. He chatted with the crew during mealtimes, sharing stories and laughter that brought them all closer together. But Joe's routine was not just about cooking, it also meant keeping a lookout for anything unusual outside the train. Trains always went fast, and he knew it was important to be aware of what lay along the tracks. As he whisked sauces and tossed salads, he made sure to peek out the window whenever he could, admiring nature and keeping an eye on their path. Little did he know that this day would bring unexpected challenges that would test both his instincts and his sense of duty in ways he never imagined. On this particular journey, a young boy named Tommy was traveling with his mother, who had taken him on the train for a fun adventure. At just 8 years old, Tommy was full of curiosity and excitement. He loved exploring new places, and the loud sounds of the train and the beautiful scenery made this trip feel magical. However, Tommy had a habit of having restless nights, often wandering around without fully waking up. His mother had warned him to stay in his seat, but sometimes he just couldn't help himself. As the train rattled along the tracks, Tommy dozed off to the comforting sound of the engine. He dreamt of flying over mountains and sailing across wide rivers. In his dream state, he slipped out of his seat and began to wander, drawn by the desire to see what was outside the windows. As he left his mother's side, he didn't realize he had unknowingly crept toward danger. The train rolled steadily forward, and Tommy eventually found himself walking down the narrow aisle, sleepwalking toward the exit doors. The cool breeze brushed against his face as he reached for the handle, leading him into a world he wasn't truly awake to understand. If only he could have sensed the danger ahead, he might have chosen a different adventure, one that kept him safely on board as the scenery whizzed by outside. Little did he know that this day would take a sharp turn for him and for Joe, the freight cook watching from afar. As Tommy sleepwalked down the aisle, he reached the exit door. The train was moving fast, and his tiny hand grasped the handle as if it were a magical key to a new world. When the door swung open, the cool wind rushed in, and Tommy felt an irresistible pull to step outside. He stumbled forward, oblivious to the fact that he was now in a perilous situation. The train tracks stretched endlessly ahead, with their metallic gleam standing in stark contrast to the green fields on either side. With each passing second, the sound of the train grew louder and more threatening. If he had been awake, Tommy would have understood the danger of being so close to the rushing train. The weight of the massive locomotive pulled him toward it like a magnet. Meanwhile, Joe noticed movement out of the corner of his eye just as he finished preparing lunch. The sight of a small figure near the open doors sent chills down his spine. He quickly realized that Tommy was not just wandering, he was dangerously close to stepping onto the tracks below. Joe's heart raced as he felt urgency wash over him. If he didn't act fast, Tommy could be hit by the train or fall onto the tracks, an outcome no one wanted to imagine. With adrenaline pumping through his veins, Joe dashed toward the exit, determined to save the child before it was too late. With a surge of adrenaline coursing through him, Joe sprinted from the kitchen, his heart pounding in his chest. As he neared the exit door, he could see Tommy teetering on the threshold, completely oblivious to the danger facing him. The wind whipped through the open door, inviting the boy to step into a world that could end in disaster. Joe knew he had only seconds to act. "Hey! Stop!" Joe shouted, his voice echoing above the thunder of the train's engine. He reached out, but Tommy was still in a dreamy haze, swaying as if about to plunge into the unknown. Joe didn't hesitate, he lunged forward and gripped Tommy's wrist firmly. "Tommy! Wake up," he urged, shaking the boy gently but urgently. The warmth of Joe's touch began to pull Tommy back from his daze, and confusion crossed the child's face as he blinked away the fog of sleep. In that moment, everything around them blurred, the loud clattering of wheels and rushing wind faded as Tommy slowly became aware of where he was. With one swift motion, Joe pulled Tommy back into the train car just as a loud whistle blasted through the air. The massive locomotive roared past them, reminding both of them of how close they had been to tragedy. Breathing heavily with relief, Joe knelt down beside Tommy, ensuring he was safe while also secretly thanking his instincts for guiding him just in time. After being pulled back into the train car, Tommy blinked rapidly as reality hit him. His heart raced, and he looked up at Joe with wide eyes, a mix of confusion and gratitude flooding his expression. "Thank you," he exclaimed, suddenly aware of how close he had come to danger. The relief washed over him like a warm blanket, and tears pricked at the corners of his eyes as he processed what had just happened. Nearby, other crew members gathered, having witnessed the dramatic rescue unfold. They breathed a collective sigh of relief as they realized that Tommy was safe. Some rushed over to congratulate Joe while others checked on Tommy to make sure he was okay. "That was incredible, Joe," one of the conductors said, clapping him on the back. "You saved that kid's life." Though the crew praised him for his bravery, Joe felt a mix of pride and exhaustion. He had acted on instinct, but the weight of what could have happened still loomed in his mind. As Tommy's mother hurried over, her face pale with worry, she wrapped her arms around her son and thanked Joe with heartfelt sincerity. "Thank you for saving my boy," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't been there." Joe nodded humbly, feeling the warmth of gratitude from everyone around him, yet knowing that he couldn't shake off the nerves from such a close call. As the crew celebrated Tommy's safe return, the atmosphere shifted when the trainmaster, a stern man named Mr. Harris, stepped onto the scene. With a sharp suit and a clipboard in hand, he was known for his strict adherence to the rules and schedules that governed their operations. His eyes narrowed as he surveyed the aftermath of the rescue, and he quickly approached Joe with a serious expression. "Joe," he began, his voice steely yet calm. "While I appreciate what you did for the boy, we need to talk about the delay this has caused. Lives depend on us sticking to our schedules." The contrast between the crew's admiration for Joe and Mr. Harris's focus on rules was palpable. To Mr. Harris, time was everything. Delays could lead to missed connections and logistical nightmares that rippled through the entire railway system. He believed that every second counted. After all, trains ran on precision and punctuality. Joe felt a knot form in his stomach as Mr. Harris continued, "We cannot afford slackness in our operations, even in emergencies." His expression hardened as he made it clear that Joe's quick action would not only be noted but would also have consequences. While Joe understood the importance of schedules, he also recognized that sometimes human instinct had to come before rule enforcement. As he listened to Mr. Harris's stern warning, tensions rose, creating an unexpected clash between duty and compassion within the bustling train car. After the commotion settled, Mr. Harris called for a meeting with Joe to discuss the consequences of the delay. The trainmaster's expression was stern as he explained, "Joe, while I commend your bravery in saving that boy, we have rules for a reason. The delay caused by your actions is serious." Joe felt his heart sink as Mr. Harris continued. "This isn't just a minor setback. You've delayed the train schedule, which can lead to missed connections and financial losses. In our business, every minute counts." The words hung heavy in the air, and Joe's mind raced. He had acted out of instinct, driven by the need to protect a child's life, yet here he was facing a fine. Mr. Harris's voice cut through his thoughts. "Because of this delay, I am imposing a fine on you for grand theft of time. We cannot allow such behavior to go unpunished." Joe stared in disbelief. Grand theft. The term felt harsh and unjust in light of what he had done. He wanted to argue, to explain how saving Tommy outweighed any schedule disruption, but he knew Mr. Harris wouldn't see it that way. To the trainmaster, rules were paramount, and Joe's good deed had inadvertently cost the railroad precious minutes. Feeling deflated and misunderstood, Joe accepted the fine with a heavy heart, realizing that sometimes doing the right thing came with unexpected consequences. The tension in the air was palpable as he walked away, pondering how to reconcile his actions with the harsh reality of the trainmaster's decision. The news of Joe's fine spread quickly among the crew and passengers, sparking a range of reactions. Many crew members gathered in the engine room, where whispers of disbelief filled the air. "He saved that kid's life. How can they do this to him?" one conductor exclaimed, shaking his head in frustration. Others nodded in agreement, demonstrating their support for Joe's selfless actions. Passengers were equally vocal about their thoughts. Families who had witnessed the rescue praised Joe as a hero. "I couldn't believe my eyes. That child was so close to danger," one mother said, clutching her own son tightly. She encouraged others to voice their opinions about Joe's bravery and the unfair punishment he received just for being compassionate. However, some passengers sided with Mr. Harris, arguing that rules needed to be enforced for safety and efficiency. They believed that while Joe acted heroically, it should not undermine the operational rules essential to running a train service. A few even claimed they would think twice before traveling on a train where crew members prioritized emotions over safety protocols. Amidst this divide, Joe quietly prepared meals, feeling the weight of both admiration and criticism swirling around him. As he served lunch, he overheard snippets of conversations, words of encouragement mixed with doubts, all illustrating how divided opinions could be in the face of compassion versus rules. Despite the turmoil surrounding him, Joe remained steadfast in his belief that saving a life was worth any price he might have to pay. The incident involving Joe and Tommy raised profound questions about the nature of duty versus compassion. As Joe wrestled with the consequences of his actions, he found himself in a deep moral dilemma. He had acted instinctively to save a life, but that noble deed came at a cost not just to him but to the entire train operation. This situation forced both crew members and passengers to reflect on what was truly important, following established rules or prioritizing human life. Many praised Joe for his heroic actions, believing that compassion should prevail over rigid adherence to rules. They felt that protecting children and acting with kindness were far more valuable than mere punctuality. Conversely, those supporting Mr. Harris saw the need for structure and order in a profession where lives depended on timely arrivals and departures. They argued that without such rules, chaos could ensue, leading to greater dangers down the line. This belief underscored the risks tied to emotional decision-making within safety-critical environments. Ultimately, this incident served as a lesson for everyone involved. It illustrated that while rules are essential for safety and efficiency, human instincts should not be entirely stifled by protocol. It prompted a dialogue about the importance of balance. Sometimes, doing what feels right may require stepping outside established boundaries. Joe's experience highlighted the complexity of moral choices, revealing that even in a world governed by rules, compassionate actions can hold deeper significance and meaning. In the aftermath of the incident, it became clear that Joe's actions would leave a lasting impact on both the train staff and the community. For the crew members, the rescue served as a powerful reminder of the importance of compassion in their work. Many began to share stories of similar situations, discussing how they could balance duty with the need to protect passengers. Conversations about the human element of their roles became more frequent, fostering a renewed sense of camaraderie and shared responsibility among the staff. On a larger scale, passengers began to advocate for more discussions about safety protocols that allowed for discretion in emergencies. They wrote letters to officials, urging that policies be revisited to reflect not only operational needs but also the moral responsibilities of trained staff. The story of Joe's quick thinking sparked debates in community forums, where people voiced their opinions about the value of compassion over rigid rules. As time passed, the railroad company took note of these sentiments and initiated training sessions that emphasized critical decision-making in emergencies. These sessions encouraged staff to assess situations based on context, understanding that there are times when instinct and care should guide actions. Ultimately, this incident became a catalyst for change within the community and the railroad service alike. It set a precedent for how similar situations would be handled in the future, highlighting that while rules are necessary for safety, humanity and compassion should always be central to their implementation. Joe's experience not only saved a life but also fostered an environment where empathy could coexist with responsibility.